Hello everyone. It's Monday. It's election week. I hope you guys early voted. If you didn't, you have one last day to vote. I just talked to somebody tonight who said, I'm going to go vote on Wednesday. And I was like, you can't do that because early voting is over. You can only vote this Thursday, August the 6th. From 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you have to vote at your designated precinct that you are assigned to. So please make sure that you are going to your precinct if you're voting on Thursday. We've got some all the county races. We have a special Red Bank judge seat election that's happening, and there's 3 candidates for that seat, and then it's the primary for like state and federal for the November election. And then we'll have 3 seats for Red Bank Commission up on the November election ballot. Bear with me. I have a staph infection. So I work in a hospital. That's just comes with the territory. But anyway, so yeah, make your voting plan for Thursday if you haven't voted early, and tell all your friends. Turnout has been higher, but it's still not anywhere even close to the number of registered voters that we have in Hamilton County. So would love to see that number just skyrocket on Thursday. All right, we'll jump into the work session. It is starting at 5, our regular time. We are going to do some employee recognitions. There were 2 internal promotions of firefighters to lieutenant positions, and then 1 new firefighter that will be meeting for introduction to the Red Bank team. And then we will be going over like a commission ethics training, an annual event. I think we just started this maybe last year, and it applies to like all employees and elected officials. And there's just certain things that they go over with our city attorney, just to keep those things fresh in everybody's minds. And then we have our first voting item is on our consent. All these items are on the consent agenda. Is approve authorization to purchase an EnviroSight quick view camera for our stormwater division. So that was something that was budgeted for. You can see pictures of it, and there's like a whole presentation that will be gone over, but it's like a camera on a long pole that they can use to put down in stormwater pipes, so that they can see what it looks like and if there's a blockage and things like that. So right now they're literally having to climb down inside of those pipes, and and some of them, because they're all different sizes, some of them they can only see so far into. So this camera will help a lot with ongoing inventory and maintenance of our stormwater infrastructure. So that's that. The next voting item is to authorize the addition of, and it's called Essentials Build. It's a software that goes along with the software that we use to create our capital improvement plan. It is the capital project management piece. So it fully integrates with the capital improvement plan software side, and then it goes over to the project management side. We don't have a project management software right now, and Jeffrey Graby, who is our Parks and Capital Project Manager, we reclassified his position because he was ready to take on some more responsibility. He is going to be the point person for the projects in the capital improvement plan. And so he'll be using that software to help manage those projects, to make sure, they're meeting deadlines and everything is moving along smoothly. And if it's not, figuring out, what needs to happen. That was not budgeted for in the budget, but they do have line items from 3 different areas where they're pulling funding. It's an additional $7,000 on top of the other software that we already had purchased. $2,000 of those dollars are coming from the parks contract budget. $2,000 2,000 is coming from the streets division, and then 3,000 is coming from state street aid. So not budgeted, but the funds are there to pull from to pay for this additional software that if they had known about before the budget was voted on, they would have included it. So that's what that is. The next voting item is to approve a 4-year agreement with a company called FireCat for annual hose testing for our fire hose. That costs almost $29,000 for a total of, for all 4 years of the agreement. And this is an annual occurrence. This is just a new vendor that we're going to be using this year. Item 6 is application for the Tennessee American Water Company Firefighters Grant in an amount of up to $1,000. We apply for that every year, and our fire chief just uses it to offset costs for something. My understanding is he's going to use it for the purchase of a valve for their fire hose. Item number 7 is the purchase of a 2027 Ford F-250 for $54,746 for the fire department. That was budgeted. And then there's also the next voting item is the purchase of 5 police vehicles for a total of $235,000. And that was also budgeted. And then also 5 new radios for Motorola for the police department for $26,804, and that was also budgeted. So in case you haven't been following along or this is all new to you, we approved the budget with most of these items included in the budget, specifically in those line items. And then when the purchase actually occurs, it comes back before us as a city commission and we have to vote on that purchase. So that's why you're like, if you are following along, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard about these things before. You guys voted on these in the budget already. So, and then the last item, it's not like a terribly complicated agenda tomorrow, but the last item is to approve the disposal of unclaimed property through our police department. You can look at the list online. I looked at it. It's a lot of like personal effect items like wallets and purses and like phone chargers, some iPads, things like that. So if they can, they'll use our cooperative purchasing partners to auction those things off, but otherwise they'll just be disposed of and or destroyed. And so that's it as far as our new business items, and then the couple of items that will only be during the work session. Now we do have unfinished business that we will be voting on, second and final votes, readings and votes on the 3 rezonings that we had public hearings on at our last meeting. From all 3 of them are from R1 residential to RTZ residential, townhouse / 0 lot line. And those were at 3714 Reading Road, 306 California Avenue, and 4717 Hawk Den Trail. So we had 2 people give comments on the Reading Road rezoning. There seemed to be some misunderstanding about what the project was, some concern about like trees, mature trees being removed. But the applicant was there and he said he was going to do everything he could to try to keep as many trees as possible. And it is being developed as 2 single-family detached homes. On the 306 California Avenue, we did have 2 or 3 residents, I think, get up and speak and give comments on that. They were concerned about development in the ravine that's behind the property. From what I could tell, they seemed to be okay with the 3 single-family detached homes that were going to be at street level on California Avenue, but there is kind of a deep ravine that goes down behind it. The applicant is wanting to turn it into a flag lot, which means it doesn't have direct access from the road. So right now we have a flag lot ordinance in place that restricts building on flag lots to 1 structure only. So that's that's all that could be built in the ravine right now. But my understanding is the applicant is not wanting to pursue anything like that at this point in time, but there may be something that comes up later down the road. I did get 2 emails, I think, also in addition to those 2 or 3 commenters that were just concerned about, again, building in the ravine, environmental concerns, steep slopes. We do have a steep slopes ordinance in place that puts parameters on those things. They have to go through additional engineering approvals before they can even develop on a steep slope. And then there's all kinds of things they have to do to mitigate any kind of, disturbance of the slope. And then also, in addition to that, if, for instance, this flag lot that's back there is a little over an acre, when you are building something on something that's a property that's more than an acre, Hamilton County actually steps in and you have to coordinate with them on stormwater mitigation. So if there is potential for for you to change how stormwater is flowing, and where it might flood your neighbor's yards or things like that, there's hoops you have to jump through with them, as well as with us, with the city, for those kinds of things. So there are a lot of guardrails in place, but we are working on, we as in staff, I'm not directly involved in that, but they're working on developing what's called a Unified Development Code, which will be our new code that has our, zoning ordinances and land use regulations and things like that, but very updated and modernized to match what our community is telling us they want to see here in our city, how they want development to happen, what kind of flexibility they want to be able to have as private property owners on their own private property. For instance, with that right now, ADUs, they're called accessory dwelling units or auxiliary dwelling units. Right now, those are illegal in Red Bank. They're not allowed to be built. And we're going to change that. So that's one thing that will change. So there may be a door that opens later on. I don't know what's going to come out of the UDC in its final form. And we will have 2 readings, public hearings, and votes. It'll go through Planning Commission and City Commission. So there will be a lot of opportunity for everyone to get access to that and, see if there's things in there that they have questions about or whatever. But all of that to say, right now, that flag lot on California Avenue can't have more than 1 structure built on it. And my understanding is that the applicant doesn't want to build a structure, just 1 structure like that, if at all. But certainly not right now. And then the third property, the 4717 Hawkden Trail, they're wanting to build 5 single-family detached homes, and they're going to improve the right-of-way access to the property. And my understanding, I think they were going to pave it because right now it's just gravel. And so we didn't have any comments on that, and I haven't gotten any emails about that. So that doesn't mean that you don't have time to do that. You can come to our meeting tomorrow at 6, and we will still take comments before we have our final vote on each of those items. And then we also have the ordinance where we're voting to update sections of our refuse and anti-litter regulations and our garbage service user fees. That fee will be going up from $16 a month to $24.55 a month, if I'm remembering that correctly. Because that $16 fee has been the same since, what year are we in? Since 2009, when it was established in 2009. So it has not changed in 17 years. It has not kept up with inflation. And our operations are running at a deficit to where we have had to pull from the sanitation fund balance for the last 2 or 3 years. And we got a note from the comptroller in our letter approving our budget this year saying, okay, but but also we noticed that you are dipping into your sanitation fund again. You guys need to look at that because the revenues are clearly not supporting the operation of that division. So that is what is happening with that. Again, you'll have an opportunity to come and give comments and ask questions tomorrow before the second and final vote. And then it would go into effect as of September 1. And then the last item is having to do with us initiating the process to update, modernize, and amend our city charter, since it has not been updated since the year 2000. And some state laws have changed. And then there was the charter review board that was made up by Red Bank neighbors, who made some recommendations for some things that were just outdated and didn't make sense to keep in there, like there's a reference to justice of the peace throughout our charter, and we don't have a justice of the peace anymore. That's just not a thing anymore. So things like that. But it's for us to vote on so that it can go to the election commission so they can get it on the ballot in November as a referendum, which our neighbors will have to vote for. Now, there's probably people that are going to be confused about it and are not going to, research their ballot before going, and they won't know what to do. So I would please encourage you to talk to all of your neighbors about this. You will be able to read it in its entirety online before the vote occurs in November, but it's just making our charter readable. It's clunky and is outdated, and like I said, if you look at it right now, you would think we're violating our own charter because it says that we have to have 3 candidates from divisions in the community, or from districts rather, and that 2 seats are at large, but state law changed in 2023, I think it was, or maybe it went into effect in 24, and it affected us, and we had to make all of our seats at large. So you would think that we weren't doing that properly in accordance with our charter because our charter hasn't been updated in 26 years. But anyway, so that's what's going on with that. And of course, I will be reminding you guys of that constantly to please talk to your neighbors about that so that they understand what's happening and so they know where they can go on the website to read that document for themselves. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions, you know where to find me. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock at our work session meeting and 6 at our regular meeting. Good night.